Welcome to Gone Outdoors. Kyle Agre and Scott Brewer of Brewer Agre Outdoors. Talking hunting, talking fishing, and talking anything you can do outdoors. Right here on Kello News Talk 1320, 107.9 FM, and KWSN 1230 AM, 98.1 FM, both out of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and the mighty 790 KFGO Fargo 104.7 FM. Today's Gone Outdoors is brought to you by Ray's Sport and Marine, your local Lund Boats and Bennington pontoon dealer in Moorhead. RaysMarineMoorhead.com. Adventure RV across from the Fairgrounds Inn, West Fargo, your number one RV dealer in the FM area. AdventureRVSales.com. Devil's Lake Tourism. Looking for wide open spaces, amazing fishing, and a refreshing escape? Discover Devil's Lake, where adventure, relaxation, and North Dakota hospitality come together. Plan your stay at devilslakend.com. The Outdoor Adventure Foundation. For over 17 years, the foundation has created life-changing outdoor adventures for youth facing life-threatening illness, injured veterans, and first responders. Learn more at outdooradventurefoundation.org. Strand Ace Hardware, Barnesville and downtown Pelican Rapids, proudly family-owned for 70 years. Valley Truck Gear, protecting your equipment. The Outdoorsman, and Onyx Fish Midwest, cast beyond the familiar. And we are so glad you joined us on this Independence Day edition of Gone Outdoors, 250th anniversary of America. Happy birthday, United States of America. It is, it's always a great holiday, a time when we can be appreciative of our freedoms and our independence. But I think this year, Scott, with it marking the 250th anniversary or birthday, or however you want to classify that, 250th Independence Day, I think it takes on some additional significance in all of our lives, or at least it should.
It certainly does. And I don't know if it's because everybody is so busy, wrapped up in their own lives, but it seems like this year, when I think back, and I'm old enough to think back to the 200th anniversary of the United States in 1976, it doesn't seem like the buildup was there this year that it was then. And I'm not sure why, if we're just so busy now, or if 250 is not as important as 200. But to me, 250 is stupid important. Stupid important. You know, it's super good. And it's something that no matter how busy we are, we need to remember that.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, I'll give you my opinion, and it's just my opinion, so take it for what it's worth. I just feel like in our world, and I'm not pointing fingers at one side or the other, I'm pointing fingers at both sides. I think nowadays in our culture, in our world, in our political scene, it's one side or the other, us against them, rather than everyone being an American. And I think really that 250th significance is the fact that we are all Americans. We all hold that common and true, and the values that make us Americans that led to our independence are something that we need to celebrate.
Amen, buddy. Amen. That is a very good point. We are all in this together. And as long as we remember that first and foremost, we will all be better off.
Yeah, I agree. And I just think back in my life, and you probably can think of some of those times too, when, and unfortunately, I think a lot of times it comes after tragic events. I think most significantly in my adult life, September 11th, 2001, when the days, the months after that, and even for a few years, we really came together as a country, as Americans, not as one side or the other. And I know there have been other times, those who have been around longer than we have and can remember some of the very patriotic times. And those are the times that I think really bring that American bond a little bit closer to the surface.
Yep, for sure. And it would be really, really neat if we had one of those times without having all the hardship and all the bad things that go along with it.
Agreed.
If we just kind of all woke up and decided one morning, hey, I'm just going to get along with everybody. It doesn't mean I need to agree with them, but as long as we all work together for the better good, we will all be better because of it.
Yeah, I would agree. And you're right. We don't always have to agree, but we always need to get along. And yeah, so much for being on the soapbox. We hope you're having a great Independence Day, a great weekend, or if you've taken vacation either leading up to, or you have vacation coming up this next week, whatever it might be. I hope you get a little time to spend in the outdoors, whether that's a walk in the woods to do a little foraging, or just enjoy the woods and the experience, whether it's a boat ride out on the lake, listening to the loons, watching a sunset, or maybe wetting the line. Maybe it's a little work on the hunting land, whatever it is. I hope that you get an opportunity to enjoy the weekend, the time, and to appreciate our independence in this 250th celebration.
Yes, and I would like to get back on the soapbox just for a second here, Kyle.
Yep.
Kyle's over here chuckling. If you're out driving a boat this weekend, please, please, please be careful. Their waterways this weekend will be the busiest of the entire season. There's going to be a lot of people in the water swimming. There's going to be a lot of people out tubing. There are going to be a lot of people out everywhere. Please be careful. And now to the soapbox part. If you've been partaking in some alcoholic beverages, please don't get behind the wheel. Actually, you might not be better off, or you might be better off if you don't even get in a boat, because other bad things can happen to you, even if you're not driving. Please be careful.
Yeah. Not behind the wheel or in front of the handle.
Yeah.
Whether you're a tiller or a wheel guy. I mean, you know, you gotta include all of us in that statement, right? And that's really good advice, honestly. And I think of the Independence Day holiday because so many people are maybe taking a boat out to watch the fireworks on the lake, or go on that cruise, and everybody, you know, people playing, as you said. It just is a super, super busy time. And yeah, be careful, be careful, be careful. That extra minute, that extra second, that extra time it takes to be careful. It's so, so worth it out there. And we want y'all to have a great, great experience this weekend, a great time out on the water or wherever you might be.
Yep. And although we haven't, I think, Kyle, maybe we're a little bit neglect here because we haven't really talked about clean, drain, and dry much this season. But if we're going to talk about it once, this would be a great time to do it. Please make sure you got all the water out of your boat before you transport it to another lake. There's going to be some of us that'll be taking our boats to a few different lakes this weekend. We don't want to spread any invasives, so please be careful doing that as well.
Yeah, and that goes for any boat. It could be a pontoon, a fishing boat, a ski boat, a jet boat, a jet ski. It doesn't matter. Whatever it is, make sure you're taking the precautions. We're not going to take precautions when it comes to the quality of our guests on this show, this Independence Day. Scott, we're going all out. We got some great ones here. And as we come to the close of this opening segment, we're going to preview the fact that we've got Brett Waldera, personal friend and just an all-around great guy. He is a muskie expert. He is the muskie guru, if you ask me. He's going to come in and talk a little bit about midsummer muskie targeting, the do's, the don'ts, and some of the other things. Andy Holt, of course, our Gone Outdoors, living off the land expert. You all know Andy. He's going to talk a little bit about some food plots. And we're kind of trying to weave in a little bit of this food plot stuff over the next couple of weeks to month, because a hunting season really isn't that far away, and now's the time to get prepped. We'll also hear from Toby Kvalevog, Leisure Outdoor Adventures, and get a report on fishing from central Minnesota in the Leech Lake area over there, where he has been working his tail off, taking clients out and getting them on fish. It's going to be a great one here, folks. We're going to take a quick break, but we'll be back with more Gone Outdoors. onX Fish Midwest, covering 11 states on both iOS and Android. All your fishing information is one click away. Searching for new destinations by species, abundance, or trophy potential, it's all at your fingertips, including access points and shoreline ownership.
You get confused by special lake regulations? They're all on onX Fish Midwest. Real-time weather for your exact location, aerial imagery, and waypoint management, all right to your mobile device. Use code BA Outdoors to get 20% off your subscription at onxmaps.com. Hey everybody, welcome back to Gone Outdoor Radio. You're listening on Kello News Talk or KWSN in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, or the mighty 790 in Fargo, Moorhead and surrounding community. Scotty Brewer, Kyle Agre, Brewer Agre Outdoors. And we are going to chat with a regular to the Gone Outdoors. We have Brett Waldera. Brett has been on these airwaves as long as we have, I think. He's been constant. Couple times a year we get him on because he's such a wealth of knowledge. If you're talking muskies anywhere in North America, Brett is an expert on it, in my opinion. He's going to disagree with that, but that's okay because this is our show and not his. How you doing, Brett?
I'm doing well. Thank you guys so much for inviting me on again. And, I never get sick of talking about muskies, so I appreciate you guys having me on again.
So it seems like as the water temps, I haven't learned a whole lot about muskies since we started talking here 10 years ago, but I've learned a little bit. And I think that as the water warms, the fish metabolism speeds up and they need to eat more. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct. 73 degrees is kind of like, for us muskie gurus, is kind of that really kickoff water temp where metabolism gets going and you can fish lures a lot faster, fish more efficiently with more bucktails and stuff. I typically don't throw a lot of like bucktail spinners until the water's above 70 degrees. So we're at right around that 69 to 70 degrees right now. We had a weird spring where it warmed up really quick, and I know we had a couple days where it hit like 75 degrees, but then it cooled back down to 65 degrees. And that kind of put the muskies in a little bit of a funk. They were kind of getting out of the spawn, and I don't know. It just it kind of set them back, I think, a little bit. I'm not sure if it affected the spawn because I haven't been seeing as many big fish as I typically do for this time of year. Catching a lot of smaller fish, a lot of small males. But by big muskies, I'm talking, 48-inch to 54-inch fish, and just not quite seeing those like I used to. But water temperatures are rising. This heat that we're going to experience here now is going to help, and that'll get them active.
Brett, as a person who knows the whole life cycle of the muskies, as you look into summer, we're early summer, heading into summer peak here in the coming weeks, where should we think that these muskies will be? And with that odd spring, are they in those same areas and just not willing to bite, or have they changed up their pattern?
Yeah, so this time of year, that 4th of July, is always one of my favorite times of year. I mean, it's great to have the barbecue with the family and everything, but it's really like you guys mentioned, where the water temperatures kind of start hitting that first, low 70s, and you start seeing big fish show up, and weed growth. The weed growth is starting to develop now. It's a little bit behind. I'm surprised on some of the lakes I fish. The cabbage is nice and green. The cabbage looks really good, probably because of lack of snow last year and everything. But a lot of the other weeds are a little they're a little behind. You're just not seeing a whole lot of weed growth, but it's coming, and that's where I would look for fish right now. Is look for any areas of good weed growth, good cabbage stands. Points, the last second to last time I was out fishing, we had a really good night, put multiple muskies in the boat, and we were just targeting points, extensions from shallow water that extend into deep water into the basin. Some of them had weeds, good weed growth, some of them didn't, but almost every point we went to had a muskie on it on a muskie lake, that they were stocked in. So it was a pretty good night.
Before we move on here, since we're still kind of talking about water temperatures, we probably should throw out our little PSA announcement about how warm should people be fishing. How warm can that water temp get before there is potential to maybe causing harm to the muskies?
Yeah, the 80-degree water temp is kind of that threshold where most muskie anglers will not fish when the water temperature reaches 80 degrees. Now, I look at that as being kind of a little bit of a sustain too. I mean, if it's flat, calm, you might get a day where your temperature gauge reads 80 degrees, but 2 feet, 3 feet below the surface, it's probably 75, 76 degrees. And as soon as you get wind, it knocks it back down. So that isn't as critical. But when you get a couple, those hot days and sustained water temps of 80 degrees, then you want to quit fishing them, because these fish fight so hard, and they build up the lactic acid and everything, and you go to release them, and that top 80-degree water doesn't have enough dissolved oxygen for those fish to recuperate, and that's where you get the delayed mortality, and it gets really, really hard on the fish.
Okay, how about presentations? And before you answer that, I thought, I wonder how many lures Brett Waldera has. He's been muskie fishing for so long. And if he is just like the rest of us, he's probably a lure junkie. He's probably got a garage full of lures. And you don't have to answer that. The question is, do you still go out and buy new lures? Is there a hot new product out there? It seems like in the walleye world, there's always a hot new product in the bass market. In the muskie world, is there a hot new product out there, or are you still just grabbing your old chewed up baits that you've used for many years?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. A little of both. I mean, like anything with other fish species, the forward-facing sonar is kind of taken over the muskie world by storm. Now, old school muskie fishermen like me are against the tactic of sharpshooting muskies. I'm just gonna say it. It's a little bit of taboo in the muskie community, but those style baits for forward-facing sonar that sink fast, a jig style bait, they're very, very popular. But a lot of the old standards are still my favorite lures. Just a bucktail spinner, very easy to use. Cast out, reel it in. Just super, super, super simple. Safety pin style spinner baits for muskies. Bigger ones, such as like a rad dog, they're really, really good. Top waters are always fun. It's a very visual thing that should start picking up. With the shallower weed growth. You get a cloudy, overcast day, some low light, top water fishing will start. And like I said, it's a super visual way to fish muskies, a lot of fun. Crankbaits, I love crankbaits and jerkbaits. Those things shine. I'm getting out of that a little bit now. I like crankbaits and jerkbaits more with colder water. I've been using a lot of crankbaits this spring, but now I'll start using, fishing faster and using more of the bucktail spinners and cover weed flats and cover water fast, and more efficiently.
So, Brett, I know there's one thing you didn't mention right there, and it's something you've been doing a lot lately, and maybe it's something for a different segment, but you've been trying to catch some of these apex predators on a fly rod, and I'm awful interested in that. We might have you come back and give us a little rundown on how you're doing that.
I would love to. Unfortunately, this season, I'm sure you guys know, it's windy every day, and that does not bode well for casting fly lines. So I have been very limited to my fly fishing just due to our weather patterns here this spring. So yeah, hopefully I can talk a little bit more about it later. But for me this season, it's been on the back burner.
Well, Brett, maybe if both me and Kyle and you hold our breath for a little bit, then maybe Mother Nature will stop making it windy.
I sure hope so. It's
Yeah.
gotta quit sooner or later.
Yeah.
I was gonna tell you guys though, we're talking about the weed growth and muskies, and this last week I've spent some time fishing, some of the newer weed growth. And I put a post on Facebook, maybe you guys saw it, but I caught a trophy walleye on a 9-inch crankbait. And 2 days later, I went out and I caught 3 more. Not trophies, but they were all over 20 inches while fishing muskies on a big crankbait. So not only are the muskies, moving into these newer weed beds, in that 10 to 14 feet of water, but big walleyes are utilizing that weed growth as well.
That's a great tip, Brett. All right, we got to finish up here. If anybody would like to follow along with you on any of your posts, how can they do that?
You can just friend me on Facebook. Again, I'm a member of Muskies Inc. I was president for many, many years. And the fourth Tuesday of every month, we have our meetings. They're at the Ramada Inn on 13th Avenue, open to the public. Feel free to come to those meetings. They start at 7 p.m. Yeah, and if anybody wants to talk fishing, shoot me a message on Facebook. I'm happy to offer up any advice.
Thanks, Brett. We appreciate it. Thanks for coming on Gone Outdoors.
Thank you, guys.
Stick around. We will be back with the second half of today's Gone Outdoors after this short break. This is Scotty and Kyle. If you're in the market for a new fishing boat, you've got to check out Ray Sport Marine in Moorhead. They've got a huge lineup of Lund boats, all powered by Mercury outboards.
From chasing walleyes to pulling the kids on tubes and skis, there's a Lund built for every kind of adventure, with a Mercury on the back to power through it all.
Visit Ray Sport Marine in Moorhead, just north of Menards, or explore their full Lund and Mercury lineup anytime at raysportmarine.com.
Welcome back to the second half of this morning's Gone Outdoors. Kyle Agre and Scott Brewer of Brewer Agre Outdoors, talking hunting, talking fishing, and talking anything you can do outdoors right here on KWSN and Kello News Talk in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and the mighty 790 KFGO Fargo. We're pleased to welcome back a familiar voice, our Gone Outdoors Living Off the Land expert, Mr. Andy Holt. Andy, welcome back. It's been a little while since we've had you on, but it's always good to hear your voice.
Hello, thanks for having me. I hope you're all having a good summer.
Yeah, and I think that's the key, right? It is summer, and although we want to relish in the beautiful weather, the heat, the time to go get in the lake and on the lake and around the lake and all of those good things, but we know that hunting season truly isn't all that far away, and some of the successes we're going to see in September, October, and November really are beginning right now as we set the stage in our food plots on our hunting land. And that's why we wanted to have you come on in here today, Andy, is talk a little bit about where does food plot evolution go beyond just going to the big box store, grabbing a bag of whatever and spreading it out there with our seed spreader. What are some of the strategies we can have to make our food plots better than that?
Yeah, I think one way is just to look at diversity. Maybe you've had some success with like brassica or like turnip type food plots. Maybe you look at adding something, a different layer to that. Maybe you look at even developing your own blend. A lot of the companies that you're getting these blends from, you can also get individual varieties of seeds, and maybe you've noticed some different varieties that have done well for you in the past, and you want to kind of tweak your own blend. That's kind of a fun way to go next level as well.
No kidding. And that's just looking at the type of seeds that you're going to plant, right? I mean, to vary it up like that. Is it best to have different types of plants separated in different plots, or can we kind of mix and mingle them together in a single plot?
There's some things that mingle well, so say like in your brassica type plots that you're going to be planting like late July, early August type of thing, like different radishes and different types of turnips, so maybe a purple top, or maybe ones that are more concentrated on the bulb and not as much on the leaf, or more on the leaf and not as much on the bulb. Those things can go really well together. One thing to watch is this seed size. They might grow well together, but they might not spread well together depending on your spreader. So you might want to actually spread them individually, even though they maybe are going on the same plot. One thing I think of is like a daikon radish. I like to spread that separate from like the purple top turnip, which is a tiny seed, versus the bigger daikon radish.
As we talk about food plots, are we talking mainly just deer food? I mean, is there other animals that we got to be considerate of? Are we concerned about deer cover? I mean, what is the strategy there for what a guy really may want?
That's definitely another area where you can kind of go next level once you've gotten comfortable, kind of with your basics. well, now maybe am I going to plant a plot screen? There's still time this summer to plant different plot screens. We like Egyptian wheat. We also like some sunflowers. If you're going to do sunflower, you kind of want to get after it right now, but there's still time for the Egyptian wheat or some of these other just really tall grass type things. And those aren't so much concentrated on food, but providing cover, providing security. There will be a little bit of seed head on there. And you know, depending on where you are, you might be wanting to focus on something, some sort of food for fall turkeys, which is probably going to be some sort of grain, like we talked about the sunflowers or corn or beans, that kind of thing.
So, Andy, I want to go back to the screen because we were talking about this before we went on the air. And the idea of a screen is if you have a plot that's kind of in an exposed area and you have a hunting blind nearby, right? The screen gives you protection to be able to move into that blind. Am I getting that correctly in terms of how that works?
That's definitely one aspect of it, that you would have more secure access. Not that, and I don't believe anything is ever bulletproof. You hear people talk about that a lot. I don't think anything, and just because you don't hear a deer blow at you doesn't mean that you got in, clean, as they say. But that's one aspect is better access, but also to make the deer feel more comfortable coming out into your plot while it's maybe still a little bit light out. Also to break up plots so that they're not just coming out and seeing the whole thing and then you can see what's all going on, who's all there. You could add like lanes in there just to add sort of some structure to your food plot, especially if it's a bigger food plot. Maybe make some lanes. Maybe it's like some blocking so then when the deer goes behind it, you get a chance to draw your bow to pick up your gun, that kind of thing.
That's really interesting because the point you made there with not allowing the deer to see the entire plot and make them work to see the different areas and who's there. And immediately I think about a buck coming into a plot to see if there are does around, right? And that would be a prime example of that.
Exactly. If they're going to be able to look and see the whole plot and know if there's does, which does are there, scent check the whole thing, where it's really kind of been shown that if you break that up a little bit, add some structure, it'll inspire movement. And maybe in like that whole plot might not be the whole thing as well. That's another way to inspire movement. Maybe there's some clover here, there's some turnips here, maybe there's some beans over there. Get them to come check it all and just get that movement going a little bit better rather than standing in one spot and being able to sample everything that you're offering.
Andy, we got about a minute and a half left here, but I wanted to ask you also about timing your food sources throughout, not just the hunting season, but into winter. Is there some strategy involved with that as we select what we're going to plant?
Yeah, there's just some good base things like clover offers food for such a wide range of time, early spring to late fall. Alfalfa does the same as well. Corn, of course, is mostly like a late season thing. But also like in your turnips, you can time your planting and then how close together you plant. If you're going to plant really a lot of seed for the area, you're going to get smaller turnips packed in tighter. If you're more sparse, you're going to get bigger turnips that would take longer to form.
That's interesting. There's a lot of it's not quite as simple as just opening a bag, throwing it out and forgetting about it. And that's why we appreciate having you around to give us some of these ideas and guidance on how we can make our food plots better. Andy, if people want to follow you, which I know both Scott and I do, and we have an awful lot of enjoyment seeing all the things you're up to, with foraging, with growing your own food, with doing the hunting, the trapping, and all those things, where can people find you?
I'm on Facebook just as Andy Holt. I also have Cape on Deer Recovery on Facebook as well. I'm on Snapchat, all that kind of stuff.
Andy Holt, our Gone Outdoors Living Off the Land expert. Andy, as always, thank you for taking some time here on this Independence Day holiday to join us and talk a little food plots. Thank you.
Thank you guys for having me.
Folks, don't go away. We're not done yet. We're going to take a break, but we will be back with more Gone Outdoors.
At Acme Tackle, innovation meets results, from legendary cast masters to proven trolling and jigging baits that flat out catch fish.
When it's time to finesse, power, or fill the live well, reach for Kalen's Plastics. Lifelike action, proven colors, and the soft plastics that fish just don't let go of.
And tie it all together with Elliott fishing rods, lightweight, sensitive, and built for anglers who demand performance on every cast.
Acme Tackle, Kalen's Plastics, and Elliott Fishing Rods. Fish smarter, fish harder, and fish confident.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Gone Outdoor Radio. You're listening on Kello News Talk or KWSN Radio in South Dakota or KFGO, the mighty 790. Scotty Brewer, Kyle Agre, Brewer Agre Outdoors. And you know, Kyle, it's been a while since we've had this gentleman on. He's been on the show quite a few times, Toby Kvalevog. He is with Leisure Outdoor Adventures, and if you know anything about Toby, you know he's been out chasing walleyes probably on Leech Lake. How are you doing, Toby?
Well, first, thanks for having me. I'm doing great. Like you said, it's here we are right in the middle of summer already, and things are going so fast. And yes, Leech Lake has consumed a lot of my time here so far this summer, and had a couple dabbles over on Lake Bemidji, and I just fished the Pokegama, Lake Pokegama Graha Walleye Classic there, and so a couple times off of the lake, but mainly day in, day out, I'm over here on Leech Lake, enjoying 112,000 acres of walleye, smallmouth, muskies, you name it. It's a great multi-species lake.
And we talk about this all the time, how we talk about going to Devil's Lake or we talk about going to Lake of the Woods. Very rarely do you hear guys talking about going to Leech Lake, and shame on us because Leech Lake is just as good as those other previously mentioned lakes, and it's just as close, if not even closer.
Yeah, absolutely.
How did things go in June?
Well, June was, I'm sure you've heard it a lot this spring. We just have had this kind of off early summer where, the water temps started to warm up in June, and then it got cold again and water temps went back, and the mayflies have been on and off trying to hatch and not hatching, and we're just kind of getting through it right now, but we're still not at 70 degrees as we're talking today. It's not, 68 degrees is kind of the norm. So things are just kind of stagnant a little bit, which Leech Lake, of course, is another zebra mussel infested lake that's super clear. So when you have colder water, the water's staying clear, so it just sometimes when you get the high sun days, it's a little bit more difficult. But June fishing was, when we had that week of warm up, we did touch, we did get into the 70s, and that just turned the lake on. It was great. Got a little bit of algae bloom happen real fast, and the walleyes were shallow pre-mayflies and still eating shiners and jigs and, artificials that look like shiners. So that bite was fun. The smallmouth were on the beds, and that kind of backed them off too when it got colder. So that was a little bit of a tougher deal. But, the fishing was really, really good in June for sure. And now we've progressed here to where we are in July, and it's, with the hatch going on, it's finishing up now. It's got a little bit tougher. The fish are certainly eating crayfish galore. We have the rusty crayfish as well on this lake. And boy, there's a lot of beautiful 19 to 22 inch fish to catch. But some days, boy, I tell you what, it's like, it doesn't matter what you throw at them. You don't catch them, and the next day, you catch them as easy as you possibly could. I know I just did a trip where we had, on 3 passes in a row, take forward-facing sonar out of the equation. We tripled 3 times, pulling the old standard Lindy rig with a crawler blowing up, just going through the deep rocks, and boy, was that fun. Believe it or not, guys, you can still fish old school over in Leech Lake sometimes.
Yeah, I tell you what, I think you can fish old school anywhere and make it work. It's just
you can. You just got to do it.
Yeah, you just don't hear about it as much. Toby, you kind of alluded to it earlier, and the walleye fishing on Leech can be second to none, but also it's fishing, and some days are difficult. You mentioned a little bit about some of the other multi-species opportunities there on Leech, and you really are a world-class muskie fishery, and I think one that's overlooked is the bass, both smallmouth and largemouth. Are you seeing more and more people who are looking to go out and catch some bass if walleye aren't the main thing?
Well, people just, like I always say, the tug is the drug. So they're looking to catch whatever we can catch. So, but certainly the smallmouth bass and the largemouth bass are a species that we can target. But, with the size of Leech Lake, it's quite a bit of travel to go from, a North Portage Bay weed bed to the south end rocks. So it all kind of depends. So we try to have that plan in place before we launch for the day to know where we're going to go and what we're going to target. More so your panfish like the jumbo perch and or a shallow weed bed will maybe slip into some bluegills and crappie action, just to get a different species, or cast for some pike, or even go chase muskies on occasion. So it's just you're right. It's when the fishing gets tough, we gotta go find something, and there's plenty of fish.
Toby, I know that there's fish in pretty much every part of that lake every month. So my question is, let's say it's third week of July and we're heading out there for a couple of days. Are we better off searching out in that water that's warmed up more up on Portage or on one of those areas, or are we better off in Walker Bay checking some of the deep break?
You're definitely better off in the main lake on Leech, and it's been that way for about last year was this way too. Come July and August, the lake actually gets better. Right? That the fish, there's just so many options for them for food now, and then they kind of key into the sandgrass flats, which is what you're asking about, and that would be your Portage Bay or your Sucker Bay. And on those flats, you control shad traps for people who like to do that. In the right conditions, daytime too. Certainly the people that are coming over that are staying at resorts, they can get out and make hay in the evenings, doing that shad trap pull. But there's a lot of fish in small groups that are just scattered around these massive weed flats, and they bite, and if you do use side imaging or forward sonar, you can get on those same fish in the daytime with bobbers or a jig and a crawler on the bottom. Is just, these fish are keen on crayfish. So it's really a deal. When come August, when the water does warm up, or late July, they just need to feed more. The metabolism's going, and they just turn into pigs, and they just keep eating all the way through September. So we get through this mayfly hatch thing, in July, and things get a little tough as fish move and migrate to their rest of their summer spots. And yeah, you're right. The north ends, the Steamboat Bay and Sucker Bay and Portage Bays are kind of where it's at day in and day out. Traders Bay as well. Walker Bay certainly has fish, but I actually have a seasonal campsite in Walker Bay, and I drive by those fish almost every day to get to the main lake now, just because they are extremely difficult to catch. They're huge fish, they're big fish, and there's some small ones too. But I don't know if it's the pressure or the clarity, but if you don't have wind and clouds, it's almost impossible to get those fish to go consistently. So the consistent bite is the main lake, and you're right on. The warmer spots where the weeds are, where the perch and the crayfish are, that's where you're going to find your active walleyes.
That's good to know and great advice. So anybody that would like to book a trip with you, Toby, or with anybody on with Leisure Outdoor Adventures, because we know you cover pretty much most of northern Minnesota, how can they reach out?
Our website, leisureoutdooradventures.com, is the best way to look. We have a great state-of-the-art booking system now. People can click on my name or any of our other 10 guides and just see our availability counters right there online, and people can book through the website without calling. It's super slick deal, and that's the best way to find us and see who's available.
All right, this is Toby Kvalevog. Thanks for coming on Gone Outdoors, bud.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Special thanks to our show sponsors, Ray Sport Marine, Adventure RV, Devil's Lake Tourism, Valley Truck Gear, Strand Ace Hardware, the Outdoor Adventure Foundation, the Outdoorsman, and Onyx Fish Midwest. Thank you for tuning into today's Gone Outdoors. Follow along when you're on the water or in the field. Gone Outdoor Podcast at kfgo.com, kwsn.com, kelo.com, Apple Podcasts, or on Spotify. Visit us at breweragreoutdoors.com and follow us on social media. Until next week, from Scotty and Kyle, we will be gone outdoors.